It was all approved and ready to go, and then Jack Ma gave a big speech where he seemed to publicly speak out against the Chinese government. More specifically, he openly criticized China's traditional finance industry and its regulators. Shortly afterwards, the Ant Group IPO was abruptly cancelled, supposedly by order of the Chinese president himself. Then, Jack's other company, Alibaba, became the subject of an antitrust investigation, with allegations of using anti-competitive monopolistic practices. And then Jack Ma, a guy who was always happy to take the limelight and do speeches and interviews and high-profile events, just suddenly disappeared. All of his planned public appearances were cancelled, and it seemed like he'd been exiled. In fact, some questioned if he was even still alive. But little did he know, Jack's actions would be the domino that began Tencent's downfall as well. It turns out the Chinese government was not just going after Jack Ma and his companies, but all of China's big tech giants. In 2021, several other large Chinese tech companies, including Tencent, received huge fines for essentially being monopolies. The fines added up to billions of dollars. The CCP had allowed big tech almost free rein for years, and now it was reining those tech giants back in. Now, to say that Jack's public criticism of the government was the reason for what happened next is probably not true. That incident was likely just the straw that broke the camel's back. In truth, China for a while had been growing concerned about just how powerful some of these companies were becoming. China's leader often promotes the idea of common prosperity, and the tech sector had definitely created a large wealth gap in the country. Trying to limit that inequality would definitely be popular with many Chinese citizens. The Chinese government also expressed national security concerns of their own, given all the data these companies like Tencent have. Because sure, China likes having that data for themselves, but letting any single corporation dominate too much could be a risk for China. Of course, the stock prices of Chinese businesses began to plummet. It's estimated $1.5 trillion of value was wiped off Chinese tech companies' valuations due to the crackdown. Tencent in particular has lost over $500 billion off its market cap, more than half its value, since the crackdown began. And to be honest, many were surprised Tencent were even dragged into this, because unlike Jack Ma, who publicly spoke out, Tencent were known for being extremely cooperative with regulators and the government. They were always compliant with policies and never publicly critical of the CCP, and yet Tencent was definitely targeted. As well as facing anti-monopoly investigations and big fines, their new games stopped being approved, and new deals they wanted to make were blocked. And part of the reason may have been that the CCP didn't think Tencent was actually doing enough to help the state.